This is Canada HR News on November 6, 2023. I'm Elena Bobireva. In today's episode, we talk about the Quebec labor strike that may impact hundreds of thousands of workers, concerns of small businesses about their compliance with Canada's Modern Slavery Act that comes in effect in January, Alberta's new bill to make non-union public sector wages more competitive, and other topics. To get the latest HR updates, follow us on X at CAD HR News and LinkedIn at Canada HR News Podcast. But first, if you feel like you are spinning wheels in your job, if you want a higher salary, a new role, or to have better relationship with your co-workers, it's time to consider a career coach. Experienced coaches at careergoals.ca will assess your situation, identify your strengths, areas for growth, and guide you towards your goals. CareerGoals.ca is a trusted career and image consulting agency committed to helping you realize your professional aspirations. Connect with your coach at CareerGoals.ca to make your dream job a reality in the upcoming year. According to Canadian press, hundreds of thousands of public sector workers are set to walk off the job on November 6 in the first of a series of one-day strikes. About 65,000 Quebec teachers say they will launch an unlimited general strike on November the 23rd. The province's latest contract offer has been solidly rejected by unions, which are promising a historic fight to preserve their purchasing power during a time of high inflation. Quebec's latest offer includes a 10.3% salary increase over 5 years and a one-time payment of $1,000 to each worker. The offer also includes more money for workers and shifts the government says are priorities, such as nurses working nights and weekends and teachers' aides in primary schools. Workers who earn less than $52,000 a year would also receive an additional 1% increase. 9 unions representing teachers working in several francophone Quebec school boards say the government's proposal doesn't cover inflation. They have countered with a demand for a 3-year contract with annual increases tied to the inflation rate, 2 percentage points above inflation in the first year or $100 per week, whichever is more beneficial, followed by 3 points higher in the second and 4 points higher in the third year. Meanwhile, a group of unions calling itself the Common Front has opted for a series of single-day strikes, the first of which will start November the 6th and involve workers in the education, health, and social service sectors. The 4 Common Front unions account for 420,000 public sector employees, including some teachers and school support staff, junior college staff, and health and social services workers. In another union update, Unifor members at the St. Lawrence Seaway Management Corporation have ratified new collective agreements. The ratification follows a strike that halted transit along the Seaway from October the 22nd to October the 30th. The agreement covers 360 workers who facilitate the transit of ships through the Great Lakes along the St. Lawrence Seaway to the Atlantic Ocean. Wages will see annual increases of 5%, 4%, and 4% retroactive to April 1, 2023, along with a $2,000 sign-in bonus. The St. Lawrence Seaway Management Corporation reports that since the resumption of navigation at 7 a.m. on October the 30th, its teams have worked together with marine industry partners to clear the backlog of waiting vessels throughout the system. By November the 1st, the reopening plan had been fully implemented. Over the coming weeks, as the end of the navigation season approaches, the corporation will continue to take measures to maximize the movement of vessels carrying essential cargo along the seaway. Canada's Modern Slavery Act, intended to fight forced labor and child labor in supply chains, was passed in May 2023 and it comes in effect on January 1st, 2024. The Act requires public and certain private companies to assess working conditions in their overall supply chain and report on their efforts to eliminate those practices by May 31st, 2024. Companies will be required to report annually to show continued progress in reducing forced and child labor practices. CBC reports that Canada's mining industry was originally among the first supporters of the government's initiative. It seeks to bring Canada on par with Australia and the UK, which established similar laws in 2017 and 2015 respectively. Under the new law, companies found to be in violation face penalties of up to $250,000, reflecting an increasing emphasis by global investors on ethical and social governance issues. KPMG's 2023 Private Enterprise Business Survey found that 56% of small and medium-sized businesses in Canada are concerned about their ability to map out forced labor and child labor risks across their entire supply chain, and 54% worry about their ability to manage those risks. KPMG findings indicate that 82% of Canadian small and medium-sized businesses say they are aware of Canada's new anti-modern slavery law, and 58% are concerned about meeting the May 2024 reporting timeline. Currently, nearly 6 in 10 companies say they already have programs in place to identify and prevent human rights risks in their supply chains and to prevent and remedy modern slavery. But many small and medium-sized businesses are concerned that the significant complexity and scope of the assessments required by the new legislation will bring additional business expenses at a time when they are already facing numerous cost pressures. Global News report that in Alberta, a new proposed legislation is scrapping the current compensation model for public sector employees in hopes of making it easier for employers to retain and attract talent. Nate Horner, president of the Treasury Board and Minister of Finance, said the current compensation system is prescriptive and leads to issues around recruiting and retaining employees. The new proposed legislation would create more flexible compensation guidelines. The province says it would be able to pay public sector executives more or offer better perks. The proposed legislation would primarily change the compensation governance structure for non-union public sector employees at Alberta Health Services, most post-secondary institutions, and some public agencies like the Alberta Gaming, Liquor, and Cannabis Commission. The current regulations do not account for inflation or evolving labor market conditions, noting the new guidelines strike a better balance between staying competitive and allowing for fiscal oversight. The minister says that he is flooded with ministerial asks for exemptions to current compensation. So if anything, this is trying to get them to a more flexible place where they're not having people leave the province because the compensation is out of whack with other jurisdictions. The opposition NDP said removing salary restraints is the same plan that led to what it believes was the misuse of taxpayers' money under previous Conservative governments. The Ontario Human Rights Commission released its Human Rights-Based Approach Framework, a new web-based educational tool to support the public, governments, service providers, and employers across the province to design and develop policies that meet their obligations under the Ontario Human Rights Code. The framework helps users through each stage of a new policy or program with probing human rights questions and considerations that educate and help people to think differently. The Commission believes that this human rights-based approach can help to identify inequalities and remedy discriminatory practices. The Commission calls on everyone in Ontario, including service providers, employers, advocates, governments, to make use of this new tool to meet their responsibilities and legal duties towards Ontarians. For the link to this tool, please see the episode description. The Government of Nova Scotia wants input from its residents on improving the workers' compensation system and preventing harassment in the workplace. The compensation system was last reviewed in 2002, and the province recognizes that Nova Scotia lags behind other jurisdictions in areas such as workers' access to coverage, employer assessment rates, and benefits. The Department of Labor, Skills and Immigration is overseeing the review of the system. The department is consulting the public on harassment in the workplace. Information gathered will be used to create rules so employers can prevent harassment and support healthier and safer workplaces. Nova Scotia is the only jurisdiction in the country without any legislation to support harassment-free workplaces. Nova Scotians can share their input on both the workers' compensation system and harassment in the workplace at in-person and virtual sessions and through an online survey and written submissions. Saskatchewan will establish a physician assistant training program in the province. The government has asked the University of Saskatchewan's College of Medicine to develop a new 2-year physician assistant master's program to begin in fall 2025. It is hoped that the physician assistant program will be specifically designed to meet critical needs of their healthcare system, particularly in rural and remote areas. Physician assistants practice medicine under the supervision of a licensed physician, often within a multidisciplinary health team. They provide services in primary care, long-term care, emergency medicine, and other specialties. 12 physician assistant positions will be available in communities across the province. Funding for the new training program will be finalized through the 2024-25 provincial budget process. And this was Canada HR News. Please leave us a rating and a comment in Apple Podcast and on our new YouTube channel. You can also find us on Spotify and other platforms. For more information on the topics discussed today, see the episode description and connect with us on X at CAD HR News or LinkedIn at Canada HR News Podcast.